All right, guys, here we go. Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. We've got some really interesting shows again to talk about this week. And joining me is an all-star panel of photographers, industry professionals, and all-around nice guys. Juan Pons from the Alpha Mirrorless podcast. Welcome, Juan.
Well, thanks a bunch, guys, for having me again.
Hey, it's always good to have you on. Brian Fisher from the upcoming TWiP Glam podcast. What's up, Brian?
Greetings. Not much working on that podcast. Getting ready to ship it out the door.
Yeah, don't let Aaron look at that font behind you. Speaking of,
What is that?
Aaron Nace is here from Flirn.com. Welcome, Aaron Nace. What's going on, man?
Yeah, not much. Good to be here.
It's awesome to have you. I put you in last in the intros because I wanted to shine a special light on you because you crossed over a milestone in the world of online content delivery recently, right? What happened? What happened?
Big, big step. Well, we just reached 1 million YouTube subscribers.
Holy moly!
On our channel, Flirn.
Crazy.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah, it's at 990,000, it's not a big deal at all. But as soon as you say 1 million, everyone's like, "Whoa, that's a real number."
You gotta say it with your pinky in your mouth, though.
1 million subscribers.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations, because it's like when I think of these numbers, I think of television stations, and that was the old metric, right? How many viewers watched a certain program. You're like blowing television networks out of the water, and you have more viewers than many cities have, or many towns have residents. You have people that you can reach from your phone by recording a quick video and clicking publish on YouTube. You can get a message out that can move mountains. You could, it's just amazing the power we have these days. So
it's absolutely nuts, and it's so cool. I mean, we're able to work here with like a small talented team, and put our hearts into stuff, and we hit publish, and all of a sudden the world knows about it. It's really cool, and it means you don't have to leave the office ever.
Right, and on top of that, it's the whole business aspect of it, because you built that audience by religiously releasing a quality brand new tutorial every single week, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, almost, right?
Well, we've published over 600 Photoshop tutorials now. And it's the response.
And they're free. They're free. Yeah, they're free. And you have paid long-form courses, which is part of your engine, obviously. But these free courses, people could binge watch those for weeks and weeks and never pay a dime, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that was the whole idea. We wanted to give people great education, totally affordable. So most of it is free, and the stuff that we do offer for purchase on our website is really affordable as well. So, it's like there's no excuse if you're a creative person and you want to do something cool. Here's how to do it.
Love it, love it. Well, welcome back to the show, man. It's a pleasure. Congratulations on that milestone. Now, don't rest on your laurels, because 2 million ain't gonna make itself. So,
unfortunately, we don't get a gold plaque for 2 million. Unfortunately.
Did YouTube give you something for the 1 million thing?
Dude, it's insane. So we just ordered it yesterday. But it's a huge framed gold plaque. It's like there's the YouTube play button.
Yeah.
It's like they give you a gold-plated play button that's like this big, and it's in like a giant frame. It's got your name printed on it and everything. So it'll be here in a couple of weeks. We'll make an unboxing video.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, let's dive into the show. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. First thing, story number one. There's a new piece of software from our friends over at IM. IM, if you recall, and I'm sure millions of people are still and continue to use IM, but it's one of those kind of Instagram type apps where you have your community, you can apply filters to your images, you can share, and they have a couple of interesting twists on how they do things that are different and in some ways better than Instagram. But they've rolled out another piece of software called The Roll. So, and let me quote their CEO. He say, "The roll is there to replace your phone's camera roll." He showed the technology containing thousands of photos, and they're trying to solve the problem that Apple has been wrestling with in terms of organization and kind of taking on the role of tagging and grouping and all of that kind of stuff. So Juan Pons, what do you think of the role? I mean, does this fit into your role as a photographer at all?
Well, it's actually kind of funny. Is this going to be a pun-based episode? Please, don't. Let's not go down that route.
Come on, Juan. It's all in good pun. It's all in good pun.
Oh, jeez. Well, I was actually excited when you sent this because, I have that problem. A lot of times I'll take a couple images of specific shot, and I'm trying to pick the right one. And certainly the tools inside the iPhone are not very conducive to helping you do that. So I downloaded that app, and right now I'm looking at my phone, and it's processing image, I don't know, 400 and something out of 10,000 whatever. So I don't know how long it's going to take to actually go through them. But so far I already see that it's actually grouped a lot of images that are the same or equal, and it's starting to rank them. So it looks pretty promising.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's a problem, right? Because every new successive iPhone that comes out, I typically try to wait and save up and get the best one I can because I know I'm going to fill it up with all this 4K and all this crap. It doesn't make sense to get save an extra couple $100 and get the smaller one. Just get the big one and have that extra capacity. Brian Fisher, does this, looking at the role, A, does it fit into your mobile photography life, and B, is this the direction that you think software is going with this machine learning layer on top of it to clean up after messy humans?
Honestly, I think it's where we have to go. I'm generating 20, 30 pictures a day, every day, 7 days a week, and I need assistance going through it, and I didn't start it only because I have enough pictures on there. It's probably going to steal my phone for a day. I'm going to have to leave it plugged into 110 to keep it from going flat. But no, we have to go this way, and I think this is very version 1, and I think there's a whole lot of other CEOs that are like, it does what? And we will see 6 months from now lots of things doing the same job.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we've seen this kind of thing before in terms of throwing, like Google's doing it, right, Aaron? With Google Photos, they do a certain level of, or a lot of it, where they're applying program intelligence or machine intelligence algorithms to look at photos and sort them based on the content in the photos. Now we're getting this in our handsets. Does this excite you at all?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I've been actually using the Google Photos app quite a bit lately. You can sync all of your photos to the cloud. It's like for free, and for me, I've got tens of thousands of images. The cool thing with the Google Photos is if you type in car, it finds all the pictures you've taken of a car. If you type in, like someone's name, it's going to find it. The face recognition is cool, but the object recognition is really cool. Like I'm pretty into cars, so just for instance, being able to type that in and see every picture of a car that I've taken over the last 5 years is nuts. That it knows that that's what I'm looking for, and I think it blows the regular Apple app out of the water. So I haven't downloaded the roll, but I'm going to do so, and I'm really interested to see what it's going to do in comparison to the Google Photos app.
Yeah, and I wonder, like say with an app like Lightroom or the now defunct Aperture or those kinds of apps, digital asset management apps, where part of the power user thing or the cool kid club was to go in and meticulously tag all your images and build your hierarchies and all that stuff, and you can drag groups of tags onto an image with the location and the GPS and all, which I never did. I
was
never
going to say, what cool kids club do you hang out with? Those are not the cool kids. Those are the nerds.
Well, the nerds, the geeks shall inherit. So, but those kids, but I look at this, I'm like, this is great for me because now I can have my cake and I can eat it too. I want that organization like everybody else wants, but I don't want to spend the effort and the time to like, okay, I did another shot. Okay, here's an image. Here's a flower in it. So let me put flower. Let me put red. It's a rose. It's got, I have no idea what I'm going to be looking for in the future. So it's great to have a machine do that for me. Aaron, or all you guys, feel free to jump in. Is this kind of technology going to expand more and we're going to see it more on the desktop, or is this the purview of online services and cloud services like Google and IM with Roll? Aaron, you can
Yeah.
go first. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, Lightroom, for instance, obviously an Adobe product, and if they could tie in some sort of Google services, it wouldn't surprise me a lot if Google came out with something for photographers for this, like, hey, just like upload your images, we'll scan the metadata, we'll scan the pictures, and we'll come back and give you the important information about this. It's
Mm-hmm.
It depends. I mean, you have your amateur market and your professional market. Your professional market, you might need to do a little bit more, like your copyright information and things. That you might need to hard code that into the files themselves. But I think for most people, I think that going the way of the cloud, especially uploading a gigabyte these days is not that big a deal, which is it's nuts. But things are just going to get faster and easier, and software is going to get smarter. And yeah, I can see it totally coming to the desktop.
Brian, Juan, what do you think?
Well,
Yeah,
I think it has to come. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'd like to see it pushed down at the operating system. Apple threw in all this ability to meta tag all of your files, and no one I know of uses that. Absolutely nobody.
Mm-mm.
But if the machine did it on its own, it might be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of files.
We have to see this in things like Lightroom. Right now, my catalog is almost 200,000 images, and I'm pretty good about, I'm in that cool kid club that you belong to, Frederick. As far as meta tagging, I'm actually pretty good about that. But still, I mean, 200,000 images, I miss a bunch of them, and I'm sure there's some hidden gems inside my library. If Lightroom had this on my catalog, it would be a tremendous help. Not necessarily have those categories of those tags at the same level as the ones that I've actually added myself, but kind of at a separate level. Kind of suggestions that I can actually then use and leverage what the AI is doing in order to be able to find the images that I'm looking for. I think it would be a huge help, much more so than on the phone. Yes, I take a lot of pictures for the phone, but I have way more images on my Lightroom catalog than I do on my phone.
Yeah, and you know what I want, and I always want something like that's just out of reach. Like first of all, I want Siri in my Mac on the desktop, and I want it to work unlike it does on my phone or my watch. I want Siri to work like Alexa. So Alexa works flawlessly for the most part. Siri is a little bit, she needs to be held back a grade or two. So I want Siri on my desktop with Alexa-like performance, but I also want it tied in to this machine learning. So I want to be able to, instead of diving in and clicking and creating queries after the machine has sorted everything, I want to be able to sit at my desktop and say, you know what, show me all the photos that I took in Chicago between this window. Boom. And I want a window to pop up to show me all those. I don't have to touch anything. Okay, now show me all the, like Aaron, you can say, show me all the photos of Teslas that I took on Lakeshore Drive, in this window. Boom. And it should just pull them up. Why do you have to dig and click now that we have this crazy machine learning? I mean, do you guys want that? Would that be useful, or do you feel better clicking and dragging and stuff?
Yes, Tom Cruise. That's a Minority Report right there.
Just give it to me.
That's good. Well, perfect. I'm a minority, so you're not reporting this.
I think you're looking for the computer from the Enterprise and with Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Exactly. Well, why not, right? I mean, we have this amazing processing power.
Yeah.
We have we have more processing power on my desktop than anything that I carry around. Yet, even my laptop, my MacBook Pro, has more processing power than all of my mobile devices, yet it doesn't have a cellular modem in it like my mobile devices do. It doesn't understand spoken word for the most part like my mobile devices do. How come it can't be as smart or smarter than the things that I stick in my back pocket? Aaron, would you use something like that with voice-driven machine intelligence for photography?
Oh yeah, totally, and I think it's coming, right? We already have glimpses of the technology. It's just like anything else. We're in the early stages now, so we get to see it, in action. It doesn't work perfectly, but the biggest thing is there's a lot of money there, right? Yeah. Companies are throwing a ton of money to get this right because they know that it's going to make a huge difference. And with competing companies putting a lot of money into this, I think it's only a matter of time before it works really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian, flipping the coin a little bit on this topic, what about privacy? If you're allowing your machine or the cloud, and we've talked about this before in the context of Google, and Google's kind of, all your bases are belong to us, right? So in that context, do we care, or do you personally care that this thing is ingesting all your photos? Not only do they have the bits, but now they're looking at them and making inferences as to the content in those photos, albeit, yes, to make your life easier, but the other side of it, what if Google sees something that it doesn't think that you should be doing in those photos and then reports that, or, I am a la Roll says, oh, hey, he doesn't need to be over there. Or what if, and this is science fiction stuff, right? They do some sort of correlation between, hey, a disproportionate number of Brian's photos have things in them that known terrorists also have in their photos. So let me flag Brian. So just in case, we'll watch him for a little while. I don't know.
Yeah, Brian.
What about something more blatant where the system goes, man, those look like young kids?
Yeah.
What position is Google in?
Yeah.
They have the data that you're doing something bad.
Right. Yeah. If there's child porn in a library, obviously the people that are doing that aren't the most intelligent people in the world anyway. So they upload their photos into the cloud. Google scans them, sees that a felony has taken place. What is Google's responsibility? Are they complicit if they don't report it, or are they breaching privacy of their user base if they do report it?
That is Brave New World, and it's going to be interesting when it comes out. As far as the desktop goes, I think there's enough processing power we can bring that local. I don't think it has to go to the cloud.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was a nice sidestep on that question, though.
Oh, thank you.
We are clearly in the political season now. How about Aaron? Aaron, you guys have Chicago has its own political issues out there. So, what do you think, man? I mean, that's a double-edged sword, right? You give the power over to the cloud to make inferences about your photos, but then if it makes the wrong inferences, you're in trouble. What should we do about that?
Right. Well, isn't Apple going through something like that with the FBI now, where they've actually requested private information from the cell phone
to unlock the cell phone? But that was just unlocking a phone, though. I mean, I guess it's similar, right?
It's relatively similar. It's giving up the privacy of their users.
I'm saying if you, like in your house, so here's my house, someone commits a crime in my house, a la Google, that I see. Am I obligated to tell the police that, hey, this person committed a crime in my house? Or am I not obligated? And if the police find out later that this crime was committed in my presence and I knew about it and I didn't report it, am I a co-conspirator or whatever they would call it? I don't know.
It seems to me
not
like
want to use any technology, right?
Right. I mean, it seems to me like large companies like Google and Apple and Amazon are going to do their best to not maintain any responsibility for anything that happens.
Right.
I don't think they're going to just completely hand over information to a government party just because they ask. We can see what Apple's going through right now, and I mean, it's just as a company, you don't want to get involved into that sort of thing unless you have to. If a law is passed that says all private corporations have to surrender all information to the government, then I think we're in a pretty dark place at that time anyway.
Well, we're almost there. I mean, it just happened last week, right? Didn't some guy robbed a bank and they were trying to pin where he was, and they were able to go back to Google and get information out of the Android phone. Stuff that the person was not even actively tracking, but apparently Android phones actively track people, and there is a cache of location data that's there unbeknownst to people. So the police were able to go to Google and get the data out of the phone. Now they're proving that the guy was at the bank, robbing the bank, because he carried an Android phone. Listen, Android people, buy an iPhone.
Yeah, or leave the phone at home when you rob a bank.
Leave it at home, yeah.
Exactly. But that's Darwin. It's Darwin at work, right? You're supposed people that are not that are of the intelligence level to go to try to rob a federal bank are probably going to take their phone with them or some other tracking. But okay, Juan, you open this can of worms, right? So let's Brian up the ante with like if some child crap goes on. But what if you up it even higher and say, they see evidence of a giant attack on, say, New York City with some sort of weapon of mass destruction. They see that. Are they obligated to report that? And what's the difference of reporting that versus reporting something a lesser crime?
Well, we're
right?
back to Minority Report, right? It's a pre-crime unit, remember?
It is pre-crime.
It's pre-crime unit. It is actually almost proving intent.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to convict somebody on proving intent? The crime hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So all the data, as these companies collect all this data, and we know that Google is such a data-driven company, are they going to be collecting all this data and start to make inferences and prediction as to your behavior? That would be really interesting and very scary at the same time.
It is very scary. There is this great TV show that I've been watching. You guys may have heard of it. It's called Person of Interest. Have you heard of it? If you haven't seen this show, it's one of the smartest shows on TV. And its overall premise is this guy's created this program, this entity that can see and hear through every cell phone, every mic, and see every camera that's connected anywhere, and then make inferences on crimes that are going to be committed. And the lead characters have to then go find out who is the perp and who's the perpetrator and who's the victim. Because they don't know. They just know these people are involved in something that's going to happen, and we need to stop it, right? So it's actually a really, really interesting, well-written and acted show. It's called Person of Interest. So crazy. So now that we all are sufficiently depressed that we
and scared, I'm going to start covering this camera. Hold on.
Let me turn off my phone here because you probably already know what we're going to say anyway.
Right.
Say, slide up, airplane mode.
I know. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come out, we're going to talk about the DJI Osmo and its new competition from another camera that's trying to undercut the amazing gimbal-driven device. All right, guys, we are back. So DJI Osmo, are you guys familiar with that little device?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Behind me back there, if you can't see that. So I love that thing. I really like it. You can't love an inanimate object. I really like it.
I'm starting to get worried about you, man.
I really like it, with some caveats. I mean, it's a version 1, but for what it is and what it does, it's an amazing piece of gear that I take a lot of places with me. For those that don't know, the DJI Osmo, it's from DJI, the company that brought us the Phantom series of quadcopters, and they're kind of the Apple of the UAV or unmanned aerial vehicle industry. So what they did was they noticed that people were running around with their quadcopters because it has a gimbal stabilized 4K camera on there, and they were shooting footage with this thing so that they could get kind of Steadicam footage out of their quadcopter without actually flying it. So what they did was they took the camera off, built a handle, put it on the handle, and that's what you see back there. It's the camera from a drone stuck on a handle. So now you can walk around with it, control it, and record audio and video without the use of a drone. It's basically you're the drone now. So the impetus of this story is there's a new company out there. Actually, there's a couple of companies, but we're talking about one that has created a product called the Roxor 4K gimbal camera. Now, the DJI Osmo launched at $649, which I thought was okay for what it did. They've recently dropped it down to $500 or maybe even sub $500. These guys came out and they're launching at $199. $199. Now, we haven't seen it yet. We don't know if it's as good or better than the Osmo, but it's really interesting that where this particular industry is going. Aaron Nace, I know you're, high-end, Chicago retoucher compositing artist and all that. So Osmos are probably, in your outer solar system. Do you care about this stuff?
Yeah, I just looked it up on my phone. I was like, what the hell is that thing?
See? I told you.
But I'll tell you, I'm actually super interested in it. I think for things like behind-the-scenes video capture, so we teach photography and we teach Photoshop. And teaching Photoshop is relatively simple. We got the camera on a tripod. We're shooting with a Canon C100. Everything is, it's still relatively easy to do. When it comes to shooting tutorials for photography, it gets a lot harder because all of a sudden you need a lot of gear, big, expensive, heavy gear. You need operators. You need, you need quite a bit, and then you've got a 10-person team capturing behind the scenes on on a photo shoot, and then editing power and whatever. And for me, that looks like actually a perfect supplement for capturing things like behind the scenes and
Totally.
instruction when you don't when you're not shooting for a commercial client, when you're doing something that the content is kind of key. Like for us, it would be the education would be the focus of it. Obviously, we'll have to record audio externally, but we can sync that up with a program like Pluralize, and it should be just fine. So I'm actually looking at getting a couple of those Osmos. I think that would really simplify our process.
The quality of them, I think, in a lot of ways, it represents not the future of photography, but a future in photography, because these gimbal stabilized heads let you do a bunch of things. And DJI, they promote this thing as a video camera and a still camera, so it shoots 12 megapixel stills, albeit with a fixed wide angle lens on there, and 4K and down video. But the cool thing about it is it's run by your iPhone, so your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever becomes the viewfinder for it, and it's connected through Wi-Fi, so the two don't need to be in the same location for you to operate it, A, and B, it's interesting because it's computer controlled, you can do interesting things like panoramas with one click. So you say, make me a pano, and the robot just goes, and creates a pano. And I would assume, I have no inside knowledge, but I would assume in the future they might even start letting you do gigapixel type images where it does a grid, because it's code, right? It could just do the top row, next row, next row, next row, stitch them all together and give you a gigapixel image. So, I think that's why I say it represents a future in photography, because you can do things that you can't do with a still camera. Brian, what do you think of this stuff? I mean, you're like knee deep in, you built the studio from the ground up for your TWiP show. What do you think of stuff like this? Are these toys to you, or are they good?
No. It's the right thing. It's early because honestly we need to have a micro four thirds mount on that. But these cheaper options, I don't have any doubt that their stabilization will be fine. I've played with drones that have very inexpensive stabilizers, and they're amazing. Mm-hmm. But can you really put a decent camera in something for whatever money is left over after the stabilizer?
They did. The one I have is the Poor Boy version. They have a non-Poor Boy version that has a micro four thirds sensor and a micro four thirds mount on it. So
okay. All right.
That's probably the one that Flern would purchase. So
that would be the Brian model. But these other guys that are pushing the $200 limit, I'm not buying any $200 camera.
Yeah. Why? There's the whole price perception thing. If for $200 it can't be good.
At $200, no. I don't see the components in the catalog to make a probably at their cost $50 camera that I'm gonna find useful.
Yeah, interesting. But it would be a good way to get your toe in the water for this.
It's the entry drug. Yeah.
Well, but think about it. Think of the quality that you get from the iPhone, and think about what that sensor is and how much that camera costs, and the whole package as far as the iPhone's concerned. I mean, you see the big pictures that we see posted by Apple about the taken with the iPhone campaign, as well as all the new videos that are coming out now, shot on an iPhone. If you can create that kind of quality video on an iPhone, with that sensor, this sensor is, has the capability of being a lot better as far as low light sensitivity, cleaner images and whatnot. Plus, you have this gimbal built in. I don't know. I mean, I think we're getting into the point where $200 may be good enough for 99% of people. Hollywood, probably not. High-end production, probably not. But, for me, it'll probably be fine.
Well, and for the millions of
I do a lot of video work as well, so.
The millions of YouTubers out there that are, doing the daily vlogging and that sort of thing, this would, they don't want to spend a lot of money on this stuff because they're probably going to break it anyway because they use it so much. That would make sense, right? I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
The stabilization is definitely the cheap camera's friend. It can be open longer. That's $300. I'd have to take a good look at it. It's just 200 pushes it. When I looked at kind of the breakdown of components, it was rough.
Doesn't add up. Hey, Aaron, here's another cherry on top to make you want to go buy one of those things. So because it has a gimbal on there, so the image is stabilized, you can do handheld long exposures. I think they said for up to like 10 or 12 seconds. Handheld.
That's nuts.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's like magic. That's
crazy.
Provided you haven't had any coffee that day, I think, but still, you can handheld for It used to be what? It used to be what? You couldn't handhold for anything longer than a 60th of a second or 100,
Right.
you know, or maybe a 30th if you were really good and stopped breathing. Now, 12 seconds and you can, draw with light essentially with one of those things.
Yeah, that's really fun. And I was thinking, about the lower price item. I do think for, teenagers, people who are getting into YouTube, I think it's an awesome product for those, because if I don't have kids, but if I had, someone in the range of like 5 to 10 years old who wants to run out and have fun with a camera and create cool stuff, like, sure, take this $200 thing. If you break it, it's not the end of the world. So I think for that audience, an awesome product.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And they've just recently updated the DJI Go app. So DJI has this software called Go that works on Android and iOS that essentially it's the same app that controls all of their devices. So you run it on your iPhone or your iPad, and it's the app that you fly your drone with, and it's also the app that you control the Osmo with. So it's the same UI across their entire line, which I think was a smart way to do. But they've updated that app to bring Facebook Live streaming to it. So, and you can also stream live from your DJI Osmo to Periscope as well. So, for those folks that are doing the constant barrage of periscopes and all that stuff, now you can do it directly from one of these things and have it stabilize and look awesome, instead of the hand shaky and all that stuff. So, and the cool thing about this one, I haven't done it yet, but the cool thing about the Osmo and doing Periscope or Facebook Live is obviously when you stream into Facebook Live or Periscope, they're compressing that video, so that they can then stream it out, which gives you less than stellar results for the most part. But you can record directly to the SD card while you're streaming. So now you can do it live at relatively low quality, pop out that SD card, do your editing, and say, hey, if you want to watch the replay, we have a 4K version on YouTube that you can go check out, which is
dope.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, and that's where we are. Imagine where we were like 3 years ago, 5 years ago. We couldn't. All this stuff was science fiction. We had no idea any of this was coming, and now we're here. So. All right, guys, let's dive into this last story. So Google has announced a new gigapixel camera that's designed for recording famous works of art. So, for example, they've created this camera where you can. It's they call it the robotic art camera. So you aim it at, say, the Mona Lisa, and it will meticulously kind of do a gigapixel type shot of it, capturing every little nuance, detail, shadow, brushstrokes, everything that went into that. So they're creating this thing to capture and preserve those works of art over time in ultra high resolution. And the cool thing about this is they are giving these cameras to museums, or loaning them, I would assume, to museums to kind of scan in all of their devices, or all of their works of art. And they're saying the device uses sonar and laser to focus. I should register that laser. They're using sonar and laser to focus and line up proportions of the works to make sure they get every little bit of the image. So, Aaron Nace, I was really excited to have you on to talk about this. What do you think? Is this good, or is this part of Google's master evil plan to digitize the world's information?
It's awesome. It's really awesome. I was looking at some of the results. Just like the level of detail you can zoom in is really, really awesome.
Crazy.
And the weird thing, I was actually, before I got into photography, I did a lot of painting just for fun. Like, no one ever saw it or whatever. And recently I've thought about taking painting back up just as a hobby, and going in and being able to like see the individual brush strokes. I'll tell you, it's like a peek under the skirt, It's like, oh, that's what that's why this is so good. They used all these cool colors together, So I'm actually really excited, not just as far as like a documentation of like for historical purposes and archiving, but I think it's really going to help out artists. Being able to zoom into that level and see what goes into these pieces of work is really cool and accessible around the world. So I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome, but I think it also makes me feel good, so that after the zombie apocalypse happens and everyone's gone, the next evolution of humans will find these works of art and will be able to see that we weren't all insane. I don't know, Brian. What do you think? Do you like this thing? Or are you scared of it?
I'm a step ahead of that. I've been shooting the family paintings, which we have a few artists in the family. I've been shooting with my Gigapan for about 4 years now.
Really? Seriously?
And there is a real advantage to using a Gigapan instead of a traditional camera or a scanner, because you can take and light a picture, and especially in oil painting, it's very three-dimensional, and the way you light it makes the brush strokes either show up or disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got a Gigapan. It's a great tool, and I applaud them. It's a good use of the technology.
You know, it's funny because I was thinking the same thing that Brian was talking about. This is great, but there's a lot of art that has a lot of three-dimensionality to it. Mm-hmm. You know, especially oil paintings, right? I mean, they lay a lot of that paint really thick on, and how is that being captured with these devices? Because, you know, it's nice to see this at that detail, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't substitute for actually being there. I think being there and being able to see these things in you know, real life, and being able to adjust your angle, look at the picture from different angles, and seeing what the differences are based on that three-dimensionality of the image makes a huge difference. So I think it's cool, but I think, you know, it doesn't, you know, we shouldn't think of it as a substitute for actually seeing the real thing.
Speaking of it being a substitute, I would love to see a future. Here's a futurist Frederick talking again. I'd love to see a future where I can put on some really cool high-resolution VR goggles and go to the Louvre and look at works of art in there and get up close and get as close as I want and see every little nuance of detail as if I was really there. Wouldn't that be cool, right? From the you know, for people that could never go, you know, or people that are home-ridden or whatever, for whatever reasons you can't go and experience these things. Now you could and see them. Yeah, granted you can't touch them, but you could get as close as you could get to resolve what your eye would see if you were actually there. I think that's really, really cool.
And if you're going to shoot them that way, you'd shoot them as an object VR. So when you moved your head, you could see the three-dimensional.
There you go. Yeah.
Totally. See, now we're in sync. Finally, now we're in sync. I was saying in one of the previous shows, I want to, you know, like right now we have in the old days, everyone had telephones in their house, like hanging on the kitchen wall. I want to see a day when we have a small little room, soundproofed, air-conditioned, comfortable, with very well designed, with some high-end VR goggles in there, right? And you go, you know what? I have a doctor's appointment at 3 o'clock. I'm going, and you go sit in that room, put on your goggles, and go talk to your doctor, and he sees your chart hovering above your head, and you have that conversation. You're done. You take it off. You go watch TV. You know. So I don't know. That's the future I think is coming.
Are you saying you never want to get out of your house?
No, I am not saying.
You're going to put pants on ever?
I'm saying
virtual
for things
pants
like that, where like for doctor's appointments where you don't need to, you know, that, or if you you know, you want to meet family members, you could virtually meet and not have to fly across the country. You could get training. Somebody could teach you how to play guitar sitting in the same room with you, and they happen to be in France and you're in Florida. It doesn't matter, you know. Those kinds of things, you know. I think the world can be smaller with technology.
Okay.
I should write all this stuff down. This is like a movie script. I know, it's a movie script. The world according to Frederick. All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to answer a question from one of our listeners. All right, guys, we are back. So periodically on the show, we answer a question that has come in from one of our listeners. This week, we have a question from Levent about recommendations for books on how to learn photography. So Levent writes, my friend just got a Sony a6000 and sent me a Facebook message asking me what I would recommend as the top 3 books to get for beginner photographic instruction. I said Brian Peterson's Understanding Exposure was a good place to learn that fundamental subject, but after that, I was at a loss. I have a ton of books, but they are from the film era. What would you recommend? Juan Pons, you know I'm going to throw this to you first because that's Sony, and you're the Sony guy. What do you think?
Well, you know, I probably have a little different take, and actually, you know, I want to encourage this guy to even recommend the books that he has from the film era. One of my favorite books that is still very relevant to this day is Ansel Adams' The Print. Yes. Because one of the great things about that book, it allows you to look at an image and break it down into its components, is to, you know, talking about the zone system, talking about the different parts of the image, what makes an image an image. I think that's really important. That's beyond all the technical aspects of it or whatnot. So for me, that would be a book that I would always recommend is Ansel Adams' The Print. I think, that's absolute timeless. It can benefit. We can all benefit from looking at that book or reading that book. But for me, it's also I want to learn more about the softer side of photography, what I call the softer side of photography, not so much the technical aspect of it. So I would recommend that they read books and look at books about the photography that they're most interested in. So, for example, for me, I'm a nature photographer, wildlife and nature photographer. One of my most influential photographers in the past was Elliot Porter. So I read a lot of Elliot Porter's books, and I looked at his images and tried to reconstruct them, or deconstruct them, I should say, and study them to try to understand what made the images work. I think that's more important and something that a lot of people don't talk about, when they're recommending books to friends who are wanting to get into photography. We often gravitate towards, the understanding exposure, kind of the technical books.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just as important to offer those, books that can teach people how to see better, because that is by far the most important thing about photography is learning to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, what do you think? You got anything to add to that?
I don't think honestly, the Ansel book is great,
Mm-hmm.
but I tell everybody, read one technical book, learn how to use your camera, read your manual, understand your camera, then expose yourself to 50 to 100 images a day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Brian, your advice would be expose yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad we finally got that clear.
To be clear, the Ansel Adams book, The Print, was 1 and 3, right? So he had a series. You had the print,
Yes,
the exposure, and the negative.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
the camera, the negative, and the print.
Thank you. Yeah, the camera, the negative, and the print. And
Right.
I had 2 of those, and I think I had the print and the negative early, when I first started, quote, becoming a photographer. I read those, and I had to read them like 4 times because it is. He's that man knew his physics of photography down to the logarithmic algebraic level, right? So.
Yeah, and you're right. That series is phenomenal. But if I were to pick one of the 3 books, it would be The Print.
Okay, perfect. All right, Aaron Nace, what would you recommend for Levent?
Yeah, I guess I would go with Juan's idea, the second idea that you had. Like, everyone has different interests when it comes to art and different, in photography. Some people are going to be landscape photographers, some people are going to be portrait photographers, and I think, as a photographer, you wind up photographing the things that you're interested in. And I think finding someone who inspires you in that space and getting a book of theirs and just sitting down and studying those images and, what about this image do I like? What about this image, what makes this a phenomenal image? And then, looking through page after page, what do these things have in common? What color palette is this photographer using to, tell the story, and how are they, where are the subjects in these pictures? Where are the light sources in these pictures? Where are the people looking at? Are they looking at each other? Are they looking at the camera? Are they doing something? Are there props? Is there a story? I think that all those things combined, if you really take the time and analyze the works of any given photographer, you can learn quite a bit. So, I say definitely, focus on something you're interested in, and find a photographer who's doing something similar who you admire, and just study the heck out of their photos.
Love it, love it. So on that, before we leave this topic real quick, I've always wondered from you guys, educators, what do you think from the standpoint of order of operations for beginning photographers? Should they be learning the art history and kind of the lore and the Cartier-Bressons and the Annie Leibovitz, and kind of going through the history and all these superstars that paved the way for the photographers that are today before they get into the theory, the f-stops, the shutter speeds, the composition, and all that stuff? Should they build that foundation, or does that foundation matter? What do you guys think? Juan, what do you think?
Well, I think foundations definitely matter. I mean, building that foundation is going to just improve your photography and set you up for success. However, I honestly believe everybody's brain works differently. Everybody learns in a different way. So I wouldn't say there's one true way for everybody to go. Some people are very sort of have a natural ability for composition and for color, for example. So maybe they need to spend a little more time on the technical aspects of photography.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that are more technical oriented may need to spend a little more time on the softer side of photography. So I think it's more about understanding, what your strengths are, what you need to work on, and how do you learn things, and take the path from there. But certainly learning the fundamentals, whether it's the fundamentals of of composition or fundamentals of technical aspects of photography, the exposure triangle and whatnot, those are very, very important. So start with those, but focus on the areas that you think you're the weakest at. I think that's the most important thing. And for most people, not for everybody, but for most people, it's the softer side of it. What I call the softer side of photography is the composition, the color, the mood, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Very well put. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess the technical stuff can really bog you down, and some people like technical. I kind of enjoy technical stuff. It's like, okay, cool, I get to find out all the nitty gritty about this, but a lot of people don't like the technical. So I guess my advice for someone starting out is make sure you're having fun with it, because that's going to keep you going. If you jump into something and you're just reading technical and it seems like work, you're not going to stick with it. It's going to be something that you don't wind up enjoying. But as long as you can continue having fun with what you're doing, you can. I haven't read Ansel Adams' The Print. I'm going to now, but I've been shooting for a while, and I'm like, I don't know any of the knowledge that's contained in that, but I've had fun along the way, and here I am a couple years later, and now I can take that next step and read some of that stuff. So I think, my advice would be have fun along the way and pick up what you can, and all that technical information will be there when you need it.
I think that's a perfect point, because by any measure, Aaron, I think you would be considered a successful professional photographer, right? And the fact that you didn't go through these sort of traditional learning, the print, the negative, all those things from Ansel Adams from that kind of mathematical standpoint, yet your work is insane, right? So that doesn't mean that one should be a gateway into the other. But if you are that person, like you're saying, if you are that person that wants to get in there and understand the DNA structure of photographs and then build on top of that, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, for sure. And some people are going to be into the gear. That's what they want. They want to be into the gear. Some people are going to be into the art of it, and they want to create art. And I think photography is so great because it provides an outlet for many different types of people, whether they have more of an artistic, leaning or more of a technical leaning. I think that there's something really for everyone.
Perfect. Brian, you have anything to add to that at the end?
Yeah, I encourage the students that I've worked with to really get a fundamental understanding of their camera, get to where operating the camera is reflexive, because that frees you to become artistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple.
You mean like muscle memory, right?
Get it into muscle memory, even if you got to bear down for a week and get the details of where all the buttons are on your camera, because once that's moved to the back of your brain, now you're free to express yourself.
That's great. That's a good point. The first book that you should read should be the manual that came with your camera, right? At least the first half of it in your language, right? So,
I've had more than one student that was like, my first question is, how do I turn this on?
Yeah, that's a student right there. Very cool. Well, good, guys. So, TWiP listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to tackle on the show, just click on the Contact Us link at the top of the page and select TWiP, the main show, to submit your question to us, and we will get that and put that in the queue to answer live on a future episode. All right, guys, we're rounding up the end of the show here. Let's quickly do our Picks of the Week segment. Remember, guys, you can pick anything to recommend to the TWiP Army as long as it is somehow related to photography. Juan Pons, I'm going to let you go first, man. What's your pick of the week?
Well, my pick of the week is a new product, actually, that was put out, or a new app that was put out by Google called Motion Stills app. Mm-hmm. With the new iPhones, you have the live photos, and you've always wondered, what to do with that. Well, the Motion Still app actually really takes advantage of those live photos and stabilizes the background, so they actually become like these tiny little 6-second clips that are just beautiful, and it makes it really easy to share those with on social media. What? So it's just, this is the app. This is what Apple should have
These
released.
are cinemagraphs.
Photos,
These
so.
are cinemagraphs, right? These are
They're
like
kind of like cinemagraphs. Yeah, well, yes, and they're not cinemagraphs. In that, what they're doing, when you're doing the live photo thing, you're focusing on the picture, right? But you didn't focus on the 3 seconds before and the 3 seconds after, because that's what the live photos are. Is that you got the picture in the middle and the 3 seconds before, 3 seconds after. What the motion stills app is, it actually stabilizes the image, the little movie. So it just looks amazing, It looks like a tiny little movie that you used a DJI Osmo or you used a tripod on. It's just absolutely cool. It makes it really easy to share as well.
Because it's free, right?
It's free, yeah, absolutely, and it makes like a little. I think it makes either an animated GIF or a movie that then you can share on social media really easily. Because today you can't share those live photos very easily, but Google has actually unlocked the potential of those live photos. So very cool.
Really cool. That's really cool. Thanks for that's a perfect tip. I'm going to download that right after the show.
Yeah.
It's funny you say this because this past weekend I did a talk at Keeble and Shuckett. It's a local camera store here in Palo Alto. Kind of famous. They've been there since the beginning of time. And I did a talk on time travel for photographers. And we were talking about these kinds of things where you're compressing time, stretching time, selective time with cinemagraphs, all these sorts of things. This is something that would have been perfect for that talk, because now you can do it in your phone,
right.
These little clips.
And I think this was released yesterday or the day before, so it was just out.
Awesome, cool. That's a perfect pick. You might win the best pick so far. I don't know. The pressure's on, Brian, what do you got to top that pick?
All right. Well, I'm going to combine a little bit of business advice with a piece of hardware. And the advice is sound better than your competition. We are all communicating with we're all communicating with clients and models and business partners, and your iPhone isn't good enough, honestly, because that's what everybody else has. And you want people to walk away thinking that you sound rich and professional and better than everyone else. And the old saying in podcasting is the video can be horrible so long as the sound is good.
Correct.
So I'm gonna obviously recommend the Heil microphones that we're generally using on the network, but they're expensive along with their interface. So I'm going to give you guys a budget pick that will make you sound better than everyone else on the call.
Ooh.
And that's a MXL large diaphragm condenser microphone with built-in USB.
Look at
It's
that.
well rated. Sound, as the samples I've heard, sound great. It plugs right straight into your computer, and you sound like Frederick.
Yeah.
No, that's
can
impossible.
sound like me. Yeah. $105, and only one left in stock. Oh, I bet it'll be zero by the time this show drops. Very cool. All right. So, and Brian, you're using the Heil PR40, right?
I am indeed.
Okay. And you like it? You're happy with it?
Love it.
Yeah. The Heil. This Heil, right? I have the same mic, and this mic has literally been plugged into my Mac through a Shure X2U USB to XLR interface, continuously powered for like 3 years. The same mic. Like, this is the same mic. It's just like the only thing that I had to replace was this arm, because the arm, gives out over time, so you buy another one.
I don't know why they keep wearing out. We move them all over the place.
Yeah, well, it could be better engineered, but so. But yeah, these mics, if you get, I guess one of the takeaways is if you get a good mic, it's like getting a good lens, right? Don't buy cheap glass if you're going to be doing this stuff for anything, right? Even if it's just communicating with people. Like I'll do business calls that are with people that aren't even in the podcasting industry, and I'll do them through Skype with this mic, and they're like, "Whoa,
I've had this.
Am I on the air?"
Same thing happen.
Like, no, I just have good equipment. So, so cool, man. All right, well, great. So that's the USB 0.008 large diaphragm condenser microphone with USB. Yeah, their marketing needs a little bit of help, but that's
just a bit of a name problem.
Just a little bit.
As long as it sounds good, I don't care.
There you go. Cool, Brian. Thanks for that. Perfect. And Aaron Nace, what is your pick of the week, man?
All right, I actually have one right here. Will they be able to see me with this here?
Ooh, yeah, let me put you on screen.
Yeah.
What is that? Nix color sensor. What is that?
These are so cool.
I want it.
They're incredible, and I've used it. We recently started working with this company. They sent us some samples to give away in our 1 million subscriber contest. So we're actually giving away 5 of these to 5 lucky grand prize winners. But basically, at the bottom of the color sensor, it has 4 lights as well as a color sensor. So when you place this on any object, it syncs with a mobile application, and it scans the exact color. It's supposed to be like 1 million times more accurate than the human eye, and it'll scan the exact color, and then on the mobile app, you'll get all of your values from Pantone to RGB to your hex codes, and it even has different paint manufacturers. So if you need to repaint a wall, you can scan a color, and it'll tell you, this is Sherman Williams, whatever color, and you can go out and buy that exact color. And the guys who make it are incredibly cool. They're great, nice guys, and the industry is really, people are using this for scanning the color of meat, like if they want to see how old a piece of meat is based on the color.
Wow.
For skin replication, scan a person's skin color, and you'll have it on your application, on your mobile app, and on your computer, so you can recreate skin color perfectly. Think about product photography. If you've got a product, you need to duplicate color exactly on the web. These sort of things are relatively difficult to do, and this Nix color sensor just it does a great job, and it's incredibly easy to use. So I really love these things, and super happy to. We actually got to hang out and meet the founder of the company, and he's a really nice guy, which is a bonus. So that's my pick of the week.
Cool.
What do they run? What's the price?
I'm not sure, but they're sub. I think they are definitely less than $500.
There's $350, $349.
I'm probably one of those.
Yep, I know. That was my next thing. Brian is probably ordering at least 2 because you gotta have a backup, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they're really awesome. And again, you unbox the thing, and it sets up its own Bluetooth network, and you pair it with the mobile app, and within a minute of unboxing it, you're actually using it, and it's just a lot of fun.
That's crazy. All right, I think I may have to get one too, but I think Brian, you'll probably have yours before me because you probably clicked the buy now button already, didn't you?
No, it's gonna have to wait till we get back from Chicago.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. We're gonna hang in Chicago in a couple weeks.
Well, you should come by our studio.
Oh yeah, I will definitely come by your studio.
I mean, come on, right?
All right, done deal. I'll send you my my details. We'll set something up.
I'll distract him while you get the Nix.
Exactly. I'm gonna record a video and publish it to his 1 million subscribers. All right, guys. So my pick is actually my pick is on the heels of a mention from Dave Dugdale from LearningVideo.com. He was on the show. What was it, last week? I think it was. And he mentioned I forget where the tangent came from, but we were talking about what we'd like to see in video editing software. And I said, what is Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro CC missing that you would like to have? And he came back and said, well, have you heard of DaVinci Resolve? Which is a new kid on the block, which apparently isn't so new. So DaVinci Resolve, for those that know what it is, used to be only a color grading app that you would use to take your footage and make it look like The Matrix or whatever, Deadpool, whatever. You change the color palette of the overall scene to match whatever mood it is that the director wanted for that particular scene. They've evolved past that into nonlinear editing now. So now DaVinci Resolve has a insanely mature set of nonlinear video editing features in there, much like what Final Cut Pro would have been had they not gone in the direction of their UI. So they still have that timeline UI like Premiere, but the UI is very flat and slick and clean, and the whole thing is fast, and it's pretty amazing. So the cool thing about DaVinci Resolve, they're at version 12.5 as of today. They just released version 12.5 today. The cool thing about it is 100% free. It is a free app. Not only is it free, but they have a companion app called Fusion, which is a 3D and compositing app, much like After Effects, which is also very robust and mature, and it is also free. So, and it's on Windows and Mac. It's like, go get it now before they wise up. So I would, and it's free, so why not? Go get it and play with it. Even if you haven't, you never had an urge to edit video or do compositing or whatever, you might as well play with it, right? Because it's free and it's there. I've used it to edit several projects on already. In fact, the night that Dave told me about it, I went and grabbed it and edited a TWiP Talks interview with it right out of the box, and I understood it just like that, And it's not hard to learn at all. It's pretty amazing, and there's a bunch of tutorials on the web, or on YouTube that go through basic uses of DaVinci Resolve. I'm sure there'll be some on Flern soon. They're all they're all over the place. They're pretty cool. And one of the videos I was watching was really interesting. Paul Saccone, who is a guy that I used to work with at Apple, is their spokesperson. So he was doing a review or a demo of DaVinci Resolve 12.5 at this most recent NAB. So he's ex-Appler working on this software. It's got to be good, I'm saying. So, yeah, definitely go check it out. DaVinci Resolve 12.5. It's free. So I beat all of you in terms of cost, by the way. So,
Cool.
but, yeah, check it out. Check out DaVinci Resolve and also check out Fusion. I haven't downloaded and played with the Fusion app yet, but, if you're at all into compositing or, any of that stuff, it's pretty, from the videos that I watched, it looked pretty insane. DaVinci Resolve's keying features, because it is based on that whole color grading engine. So doing green screen keying or blue screen keying with the app is crazy powerful. It just works, and their whole metaphor of moving from one stage to the other is logical. It's a pretty good app, and it's definitely something you should consider if you are not liking Final Cut or not liking Premiere. This is kind of right in the middle. And also for those refugees from Sony Vegas, because Sony just announced last week that they were selling Vegas, their video editing software, so they're offloading that to some company called Magic, so it'll be called Magic Vegas. This is the perfect, on-ramp for those guys, so I would definitely go check it out. All right, guys, before we close the show, I want to find out what's going on with you guys. So, Juan, what do you have coming up?
Well, actually, one of the things that we just released today, right, was on the Alpha Mirrorless website. People can download the new ebook that I created on the top 20 settings for your Sony Alpha Mirrorless camera. So this is a little, I guess, 20-page ebook that talks about all the different camera settings that you want to set when you first get your Sony Alpha Mirrorless camera. Pretty neat little book, and you can get it for free. All you have to do is go to the alphamirrorless.com website, put in your email address, and click on the button, and we shoot the file over to you. And
and it is beautiful. You just to pat you on the back, you designed, wrote, created the whole thing from scratch. So, and it is a beautifully designed little ebook. It is great. And if you have a Sony Alpha camera, why not, right? It's just like DaVinci Resolve. Right. Why not? It's free, and it's going to give you some information you probably didn't have before. So
right, yeah. Even if you don't follow all the advice that I have in there, some of it may be useful for you. So why not? Just go and get it, and it's free. Awesome. And then I have a bunch of workshops coming up in the fall. Going to Cuba again, doing my perennial Acadia National Park workshop, Scotland. Yellowstone, I forget where else. I got to look at my calendar. I don't, it's a good thing I'm off for the summer. I don't start traveling again until September because I do need that time off.
You really got to stop complaining with your amazing life. One is like, yeah, I got to go this and that, and and then they're gonna force me to eat all this great food.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So people can find out about your workshops where?
Well, they can actually find out on my workshops on my website at juanpons.org, or my workshops are done in conjunction with Munch Workshops, so they can go to munchworkshops.com. Munchworkshops.com.
How do you spell Munch?
M-U-N-C-H.
Okay.
M-U-E-N-C-H. Sorry.
M-U-E-N-C-H.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Great. All right. Aaron Nace, what about you, man? What do you have coming up?
We got a really, really exciting product coming out. Photoshop 101 through 301. This is the largest, most comprehensive tutorial we've ever created. We're launching in a couple of weeks, and you guys can actually add yourselves to the waitlist to find out when it comes out, and also receive exclusive discounts when it comes out. So if you go to phlearn.com, this is phlearn.com/coming-soon. You'll see a little banner there, one of the main images from the photo shoot, and you can add yourself to the waitlist there. I'm really excited about it. We put a lot into that. Photoshop 101 is over 8 hours long. 201 is over 8 hours. 301 is over 8 hours. We're including, layered TIFFs so you can follow along. So when you download these, not only are you getting the images to follow along, but you actually have like the final layered TIFFs where you can go in and see like everything that's been done on these amazing photos. So really excited about the tutorial. We recorded it in an entirely new style. It's shot on a Canon C100 at 1080p at 60 frames per second. They're absolutely beautiful, and we're releasing in just a couple weeks. So yeah, I'm really excited about the product. I can't wait for it to release, and it's going to be the best thing we've ever created. So I'm pretty excited about it.
And that's saying a lot. Cool. All right. Well, I'll be one of those first customers, so I'll definitely check it out.
Thank you so much.
Anything else coming out?
Well, I've got some workshops coming up, and we've got some great stuff in the works. You
got to go all Apple on us. I can't talk about it yet.
Over the next 6 months, we'll be making some pretty big announcements. Things I'm pretty excited about. Unfortunately, I can't say much right now, but yeah, wewe're working on some pretty exciting stuff.
Brian, when we get to Chicago, we'll get it out of him with some beers or some martinis or something. It'll all be over. It'll be leaking like a sieve.
Knowing me, most likely.
I love it. Cool, man. Well, Aaron, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, and Brian Fisher, man, what's coming up with you?
I'm keeping my head down, getting ready to launch TWiP Glam. We are coming down the home stretch. TWiP Glam is going to be a little diversion from your normal TWiP show. We're going to be doing interviews with models, photographers, makeup artists, body painters, people in the glamour genre. And we're going to bring up about a dozen images from the photographer, and we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts behind the image, both psychologically and mechanically.
Yeah, I think that guy sitting next to you in the Hangout might be a good interviewee for TWiP.
It's already on the list.
Targeted for acquisition. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Brian and Juana and Aaron, for coming on the show, man. It's been good to have you guys on. I miss these TWiPs where we have 3 guests. They're much more fun. It's like a little party. All right, guys, and that we're at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. I want to thank our sponsors for their support of this show. Also, please visit our website at thisweekinphoto.com. Follow us on all the usual networks, and be sure, if you are a Sony shooter, to head over to alphamirrorless.com. Check out that new show, which is on fire, and grab Juan's amazing new ebook. So he put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that thing. And it's pretty amazing. And I'm not a Sony shooter, and I got stuff out of it by reading it, too. So that's the end of the show. With that, it is time to take that lens cap off.